How do I start this? Okay. Hello and welcome to another installment of Vinny Views. I am Vinny, and continuing with my Pride Month series, Netflix's Queer Eye reboot premiered back in February, and just a couple weeks ago, right in time for season 2 to premiere, I ranked all of season 1's 8 episodes in order of my least favorite to my most favorite. Last weekend, the Queer Eye season 2 episodes were released, and I happened to watch them all, not once, but twice, so that I can give you another one of my rankings. Today I'll be ranking the Queer Eye Season 2 reboot, 8 episodes from my least favorite to my most favorite. Starting with number 8, my least favorite episode. It's episode 6 called Big Little Lies. This guy that they're making over is a big fat liar, and I was living for the beginning when the Fab Five called him out on all of his lies that he was telling. He was saying that he was off work that day, and then he was telling somebody else that he actually got laid off, and then he said, no, I actually quit, and no, I haven't had a paycheck in this long, and oh, I graduated, but I didn't graduate, but it wasn't my fault. Like, boy, you need to grow the F up and own up to your mistakes. One of the more positive highlights about this episode is when he is cooking in the kitchen with Antoni. A familiar family dish, his eyes lit up, and then not to mention that when he's cooking himself, all of a sudden he can flip the knife and do all this stuff in the kitchen that they didn't even know that he could do. And one of the big highlights about this episode is when he had to tell the truth to his mom that he didn't actually graduate, that he failed one of his classes. The fact that he still was trying to pass the blame on somebody else and not take full ownership of the fact that he failed his own damn class. But also when he told his mom, she was so disappointed. There is a Fab Five superstar, and that is Karamo. Karamo was probably the loudest one of trying to get him to own up to all of his lies, all of the things that were at his fault. Number 7 is episode 8, Make Ted Great Again. There's nothing bad about this episode, it's just a little underwhelming. One of the big highlights is that they found a Hillary Clinton sign. Another one of the highlights, as awkward as it was, Karamo tried to get Ted out of his shell, try to better his public speaking skills by doing a rap battle. It was fun and enjoyable just to see how more comfortable he was with himself. The biggest highlight for me at the end of the episode, Ted is hosting this dinner party, visitors from different countries, and they're in his town, and they start talking about, you know, Ted's philosophies about making sure that the South isn't known as being racist and that they're accepting, and just that whole discussion at the end was just a really, really beautiful thing to see. The Fab Five superstar of this episode is Tan. Good job, Tan, whatever you did. I can't remember off the top of my head because I didn't write it down in my notes. Number 6 is episode 3, Unleash the Sexy. Leo is this adorable dad who works late nights at a bar while his wife works during the day, and they've got beautiful children. One of the most endearing things about this episode is that Leo has such a low self-confidence, and he's afraid and ashamed to go out in public and to interact with other parents because he feels that everyone's gonna judge him, that everyone's looking at him and making fun of him. And so it was a really endearing moment to see the Fab Five in all their different ways trying to really get him out of his shell. One of the other highlights about this episode was his grooming time. He had some little self-care love. Jonathan loves doing all of the like at-home face masks that you can make yourself, and so it was just a really, really fun moment to see. By far the most precious thing was at the end of the episode when Leo shows his new self to his wife. His wife was all over him. The Fab Five superstar of this episode is Karamo. Karamo, being a father as well, really, really bonded with Leo and teaching him about interacting with other parents and getting into social groups with parents and day dates and all that. Number 5 is episode 7, Bedazzle. Fab Five is taking on this task of making over Sean, who is this socially awkward 18-year-old about to go to college. One of my favorite moments is when they take Sean paintballing, just a way to kind of loosen him up and get him interacting with other kids his age. The other really favorite moment of mine is the cooking class that Antoni gave. The omelets looked delicious, but my favorite part about that was Jonathan and Tan being on the same team, and it was just really, really funny. The Fab Five superstar of this episode is Bobby, because he took this blank canvas that was like this open loft concept and turned it into this incredible living space. Number 4 on the countdown is episode 2, A Decent Proposal. The Fab Five is making over this guy named William who lives in a trailer with his girlfriend. He's got these glasses on, scraggly beard, this shaggy hair. One of my favorite moments of the episode is right at the beginning. They're going through his closet of clothes and they start having this crop top fashion show. By far one of the best highlights about this episode is how Bobby transformed a trailer into this chic modern living space for them. The best part about this whole episode is the proposal at the end. It was just a really, really sweet proposal. They had a movie playing in public and she was crying. He was waiting backstage, and then he ran off, and then he proposed, and now they're getting married. Oh, there's so much love is in the air. The Fat Five superstar of this episode is Jonathan, just because him being his sassy self. Number 3 is episode 4, the handyman Cam. They've got this bohemian, older handyman guy with this big old beard who is obsessed with going to Burning Man. The first big highlight of this episode is the Burning Man fashion show. They're going through his closet of clothes, and he's got all these very interesting outfits. Another favorite highlight of mine from this episode is after his makeover. I mean, in general, he looks like a very attractive man, but after his makeover, I was like, Daddy, come through. And the best highlight about this episode is that epilogue, though. I happened to share the fact that he decided not to move away, that he stayed behind, and his best friend that they kept joking was in love with him. Now they're together. The Fat Five superstar of this episode is Bobby. Bobby is coming through this season. He is representing for all the designers out there because he transformed this space. Number 2 is episode 5, Sky's the Limit. It's the first time that the Fat Five has ever made over a transgender man. One of the big highlights is just how much queer pride there was in this house. One of the other really, really sweet moments about this episode is actually Todrick Hall visiting Sky. Sky had talked about how Todrick Hall was such an inspiration for representing both masculinity and femininity. It was just a really, really sweet visit, and to take the time to go visit Sky, it's just a really, really heartfelt moment that I really appreciated. The Fat Five superstar of this episode was Tan. Now, Tan had a lot of heart-to-heart moments, mainly dealing with the fact that Tan grew up very oblivious to the transgender community and was educating himself, and you could see that mutual discussion that was being had where Tan was asking questions because he was very invested in learning more about the transgender community. And the number 1 episode, not only of season 2, but of the whole series in general, is the first episode of season 2, God Bless Gay. The Fat Five goes to Gay, Georgia, and they are doing the first woman makeover, Miss Mama Tammy. I'm literally cracking a smile and getting emotional because this episode, oh my God, this episode was filled with just so much love. One of the first big highlights is Bobby. Bobby's talked about his struggle with the church. Throughout the episode, he had a couple different heart-to-hearts with Mama Tammy herself, where she started to talk with him about knowing that he is loved. Another one of the most beautiful moments about this episode was just Mama's acceptance. Mama Tammy has a son in this episode that they highlight who recently came out and moved back home. When he first came out, Mama Tammy was having a little trouble with it. She found it in herself that even though the Bible says that, you know, homosexuality is a sin, that Mama Tammy found it in her heart to let go of all of that and to love her son. And listening to Antoni explain it is one of the most beautiful things. And by far, the best part about this episode was the affirmations that Mama Tammy was given at the end. The person that they just made over gives a quick thank you in general to everyone, but no, she went to every single person and gave them a heartfelt affirmation that just cut into your soul. The second Antoni started bawling his eyes out, I completely lost it. There is not a single Fab Five superstar in this episode because all of them had their own amazing superstar moments. And it really is the epitome of what I feel like this show is. So many different people from so many different backgrounds, and that's why I love the show so much. Better than I ever thought it could be, and I cannot wait to see what is to come in the seasons of the future. That is all for this installment of Vinny Views. If you like what you saw, please be sure to subscribe down below, share with all of your friends, and I will see you next time on Vinny Views. Bye! 1, 2, 3, hit. How adorable is that?